Hello, I'm Marc. I'm the host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Craig Hume, director of Utopia Computers, in the virtual studio because you're in Scotland, Craig. How are we doing?
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate this opportunity and for putting me up virtually nonetheless. It was a bit of a distance between us and looking forward to our chat this morning.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. Craig, now, can you give sort of the listeners that maybe don't know about Utopia a bit about your background and how you come to sort of start Utopia sort of 17 years ago?
Yeah, great question, Mark. Thank you. So Utopia Computers started life as a computer repair store, like many of the thousands that are dotted up and down our country. It's actually my dad that started it all those years ago, and I think it was a few years more than 20 that he started it, so it's got a good track record there. Essentially, he was a computer engineer. He had many different businesses, many different hats over the years, record stores and garages and even a pub. And he decided that he wanted to take an opportunity that he saw to take both his enjoyment for setting up businesses, but also take a passion for technology, put them together and start Utopia. At that time, and we were talking about houses just starting to get internet access. So he was going in, installing modems and this type of stuff for people, showing them how to get connected to the internet. And while I was still at school at the time, I saw him do something that he really enjoyed. And that kind of lit something in me that well, at the time I didn't know I was going to eventually join him and then take over the business. It was definitely that I wanted to be able to turn up to work and enjoy my day. And I'm thankful that I've been able to do that with Utopia.
Okay, and when you sort of started the business, did you have any aspirations to sort of try and sort of compete with some of the sort of the bigger boys? Because you're in a market that's very well, everyone knows the sort of big names in the market. So I actually said to you before we started, I said, look, I've never heard of Utopia Computers. So how do you sort of compete against those sort of bigger companies?
Yeah, I think we started off as a computer repair company. We're now arguably one of the most successful PC builders in the UK. And certainly, you're spot on, Mark, we're not a household name. People don't necessarily know us unless they're looking for us. When I started working with my dad, I did want us to be more than a computer repair store. I've always loved building things and I always loved the idea that we were going to build our own computers and that they would be available to more than just our local community. Did I think we were going to end up doing what we've done? No, I think we've exceeded my aspirations, but we've still got a long way to go. With regards to how do we compete, way back then, it's always just about looking at the next step and saying, well, how do I get there? So when we started, for me, it was looking locally and maybe looking to the closest city and seeing the biggest competitor there and going, what are they doing? How could we do better than that? And now, we look at the bigger system builders, the global system builders, and we look at what are they doing and how we can innovate and exceed our customers' expectations for what it means to buy a computer, be that a gaming PC for their kids or even a graphics workstation for a creative individual, servers, this type of stuff.
And Craig, with the sort of regards to marketing for your company, now I noticed you were in the CRNA listers now. You've won some awards recently. How do you compete again with those sort of bigger organisations when they maybe you haven't got the marketing spend they've got, but you've actually now getting your name out there a bit more? So how do you compete in terms of actually getting your name out there and getting that PR into the market?
Yeah, I think social media is the tool that every business has to allow it to compete with anyone. We have a great story. We've got a talented team. We very much talk about who we are and what differentiates us from our competitors, and how we innovate, how we help the community, how we do things with the environment. All of these things allow us to tell a story, and thankfully, the power of social media, YouTube, etc., allows us to reach far more people than we ever could afford if we had to, for example, advertise in a newspaper or on billboards, that type of thing.
And how would you compete when you're sort of saying that story? How would you compete or differentiate yourself from the likes of the tier one vendors out there?
Well, when we first started, we touched on this in the chat before the call. We thought we were going to be the cheapest, and that was the way to try and differentiate ourselves. And we very quickly learned a number of years ago that was actually a terrible idea. and we were only ever going to be undercut by people who had bigger budgets than us and deeper pockets. So we decided to flip that in its head and build what we would say is the best computer systems in the world. So how do you do that? Well, you have to give things like, we give a 10-year limited warranty, a lifetime technical support. If you were to phone me today and say, Craig, I'm just about to buy a PC, then as your system builder, I would want to understand what you're using the computer for, whether that's for gaming, whether that's for professional tools like Octane Render, etc. Understand your workflow, and then make sure the system you're buying is exactly what you need. But the relationship with us doesn't stop there. When you get the system, if you ever have a problem, you don't phone a tech support line. You actually get to speak to the person who built your PC. And one of the wonderful things that my team do, they're able to, I'm glad it's them and not me, they're able to remember names and specifications. So you can phone 4 or 5 years later, speak to your system builder. And this happens because we've got such great team retention. We've got many guys that have been with us for over 10 years. And they'll remember who you are. They'll remember what you were using the system for. And that builds a really amazing relationship between our customers and our team. It makes them feel as if they're part of the family. And that's really what we're trying to aspire to with every transaction.
And what was the sort of biggest challenge in setting up the business and trying to make it grow, again, competing against those larger organizations?
I guess back in the day, every day was a challenge. When my dad was setting the business up, we had no savings. My mum had £500 of squirreled away cash that was set aside for putting food on the table, putting lights on at home, and she gave my dad that, hoping that he was going to be able to turn it around. So seeing him spend money very wisely at the beginning, and even once we started to see success, put that money back into the business, taught me a lot about cash flow and a lot about securing the future of a business. These days, challenges can come from all sorts. The reality is that building a trusting team that are skilled and capable of doing things has been one of the most rewarding challenges, but still one of the biggest challenges that I've had to date.